The Texas Department of Transportation, Houston District, would like to welcome you to this virtual public meeting with in-person open houses. This presentation will provide information on the I-45 North Planning and Environmental Linkages Study, also known as a PEL Study. This is a pre-recorded presentation. My name is Matthew Manelli, and I am part of the study team. I would like to thank you for participating in this public meeting. During the virtual presentation, you may pause the video and navigate forward or backward using your video player. If you have any technical difficulties accessing the public meeting information, need special accommodations, or speak a language other than English or Spanish and have interpretation needs, please call Gabriel Adame at 713-802-5199. Details on how to submit comments will be provided further in the presentation. The virtual public meeting is being held in conjunction with two in-person open houses. The open houses will be held on Tuesday, September 26, 2023 at Oak Ridge High School and on Thursday, September 28, 2023 at Hochsite Hall. Each open house will take place from 5 to 7 p.m. The information presented in the virtual public meeting and the in-person options is identical, and the opportunities to comment do not differ. This public meeting is the fourth and final public meeting for the I-45 North PEL Study. The purpose of this public meeting is to engage with the community regarding the final recommended alternatives developed as part of this study and to receive feedback. It also offers an opportunity for the study team to address any questions or concerns from the public. During this presentation, we will provide a study overview, discuss the final alternative evaluation results, and present the recommended alternatives. Toward the end of this presentation, there are instructions on how to submit written comments, as well as contact information for TxDOT. TxDOT is evaluating a 24-mile section of I-45 North extending from Beltway 8 North to Loop 336 South in Conroe. The study corridor is located in Harris and Montgomery Counties. The I-45 North corridor connects several communities, including Houston, Aldine, Spring, Oak Ridge North, The Woodlands, Shenandoah, and Conroe. A PEL study is a high-level approach to transportation decision-making. In a PEL study, environmental, community, and economic goals are considered early in the planning stages. This PEL study will set a vision for I-45 North and guide future transportation improvement projects by promoting efficient and cost-effective solutions. It streamlines the planning process by minimizing duplication of effort and reducing delays in project implementation. The PEL study process encourages open and frequent public and stakeholder feedback. This feedback will guide the development of potential solutions as the study advances to the next phase. Communication and collaboration at various steps are key to conducting a successful PEL study. As provided for by 23 Code of Federal Regulations, CFR 450.212, 23 CFR 450.318, and Appendix A to 23 CFR Part 450, the results or decisions of this PEL study may be incorporated into or used as part of the review of one or more projects under the National Environmental Policy Act, otherwise known as NEPA, which would be carried out by TxDOT pursuant to 23 United States Code USC 327 and a Memorandum of Understanding dated December 9, 2019, and executed by the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, and TxDOT. The I-45 North PEL study began in the spring of 2017 with data collection and evaluation of existing conditions. During the first public meeting that was held in 2018, TxDOT identified existing corridor issues and deficiencies and asked for public input to formulate the purpose and need statement. During the second public meeting that was held in 2019, TxDOT presented the purpose and need statement, the universe of alternatives, preliminary fatal flaw criteria, and analysis based in part on public input gathered from the first round of public meetings held in 2018. The third public meeting was held in January 2023 and presented the reasonable alternatives and draft evaluation results. Using input received from the public meetings, TxDOT identified the recommended alternatives described later in this presentation. The study team now requests your input on the recommended alternatives identified to address the corridor needs. After the closing of the comment period for this public meeting, TxDOT will use public input to finalize study recommendations. This study is not part of the process regulated by the National Environmental Policy Act and does not replace that effort. The final study results would be used as a resource to inform future roadway improvement projects that would be subject to environmental review. Based on TxDOT's analysis and public input, 3 needs have been identified for the I-45 North PEL Study corridor. The first need is to improve mobility and reduce congestion. Congestion and excessive delays occur along both main lanes and frontage roads, resulting in inadequate mobility. The second need is to improve safety. Safety analysis identified high crash rates on main lanes, frontage roads, and intersections. Additionally, gaps in the multimodal network pose unsafe conditions for pedestrians and bicyclists. The third need is to improve connections across the roadway system and modes of travel. Analysis identified limited accessibility, connections to east-west roadways, and multimodal choices. Therefore, the purpose of the I-45 North PEL Study is to improve mobility and reduce congestion, improve safety, and improve connections across the roadway system and modes of transportation. For more details on background information and development of the purpose and need statement, please refer to materials and videos provided on the I-45 North PEL Study website. The goals were developed based on input received from the public, stakeholders, and agencies during the study outreach process. These goals were used to guide the alternative development and evaluation process. Each alternative was evaluated to assess how it met each of the goals. TxDOT used a 3-step process to identify the recommended alternatives. The process started by identifying any alternative that could improve the I-45 North corridor, referred to as the universe of alternatives. A fatal flaw analysis was conducted to reduce the number of alternatives to those most likely to be successful, known as the reasonable alternatives. The reasonable alternatives were then screened based on how they address the needs and goals of the study. The results of this screening were used to identify the most viable improvements to incorporate into the recommended alternatives. After completion of the PEL study, the recommended alternatives will be evaluated in more detail during the environmental review process. The next few slides will discuss the reasonable alternatives presented at the 3rd public meeting and the steps that went into identifying the recommended alternatives. TxDOT identified reasonable alternatives to address the 3 needs of the study: improve mobility, improve safety, and improve connectivity. The reasonable alternatives consisted of the no-build alternative and 3 build alternatives. Detailed information about each of the reasonable alternatives was presented at the 3rd public meeting held in January 2023. An online survey was provided during the 3rd public meeting, held in January 2023, to obtain input on the reasonable alternatives. The survey asked participants to rate each of the reasonable alternatives. Adding elevated lanes was the highest rated alternative, followed by restriping, then adding lanes at grade, and the no-build alternative was the lowest rated. Many comments were received identifying opposition to right-of-way impacts and relocations associated with any future improvements. There was a desire for intersection and interchange improvements. The top 5 improvement locations are listed on the right of the slide. Each reasonable alternative was rated for its ability to meet the 3 needs: improving mobility and reducing congestion, improving safety, and improving connectivity and accessibility. A detailed, quantitative analysis was completed for each alternative to evaluate its performance at meeting the needs. These evaluation results were presented at the previous public meeting and summarized using a 5-star rating scale. Alternative 3, add elevated lanes, best met the 3 needs. The study team also used the goals to evaluate the reasonable alternatives using the same 5-star rating system. One of the goals is to obtain stakeholder and public input on the alternatives, as shown on the bottom of the slide. The stakeholder input ratings were based on survey results taken by 19 participants during the November 2022 stakeholder meeting. The public input ratings were based on the online survey results, which was completed by 221 participants. Alternative 3, add elevated lanes, received the highest ratings by both the stakeholders and public, and also performed the highest overall in the goals evaluation. As a result, adding elevated lanes has been identified as one of the recommended alternatives. The recommended alternatives are comprised of many individual improvements, which include elevated managed lanes, intersection improvements, frontage road improvements, ramp modifications, multimodal hubs, and bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. Each of these components are discussed in more detail on the following slides. Additionally, recommended alternative map exhibit boards have been prepared as part of the presentation materials for this public meeting. These maps are available for viewing online or at the in-person open houses. The alternatives recommended by the I-45 North PEL Study may become future projects and would be subject to modification during the project development process. The recommended alternatives may advance in the project development process as individual, potential future projects proposing to improve I-45 between the limits captured in this PEL study. Each project would undergo schematic design, environmental review, and final design before construction would occur. Public involvement and stakeholder engagement would continue through each stage of the project development process. The schedule and duration of each future project would depend on the complexity and cost of the improvements. There would likely be 3 types of projects. Short-term projects would be spot improvements with potentially minor impacts and construction completed in a short duration. Mid-term projects take more time due to increased potential for impacts and design complexity. Long-term projects typically have a higher cost, potentially more impacts, and longer-term construction that would extend over multiple years. Each of the recommended alternatives have been classified as a short, mid, or long-term project based on the anticipated complexity and cost. The first recommended alternative is a long-term project that would construct an elevated structure along I-45 North to provide 2 managed lanes in each direction and a shared use path along each frontage road. The types of users allowed on the proposed managed lanes would be determined during the environmental review and public engagement process. The number of main lanes and frontage road lanes would be maintained along the existing pavement, resulting in no major reconstruction of the main lanes or frontage roads. Improvements at the interchanges with Beltway 8 North, State Highway 99, Hardy Toll Road, and State Highway 242 would be needed in order to accommodate the proposed elevated managed lanes. With the elevated managed lanes alternative, access to the elevated managed lanes would be limited to several key locations to improve operations. 5 locations were identified as potential access points between the main lanes, frontage roads, and the proposed elevated lanes based on travel patterns. These locations would be north of Beltway 8 North, north of FM 2920, north of Hardy Toll Road, south of State Highway 242, and south of Loop 336 South. Access would also be provided from the existing Kuykendall Park and Ride. Future park and rides and multimodal hubs may also directly access the proposed elevated managed lanes. Additional short-term and long-term recommended alternatives have been identified at intersections to improve safety and operations. This slide shows the long-term diverging diamond intersections recommended at 6 intersections along the corridor: Ritchie Road, Farm to Market FM 2920, Rayford Road, Sawdust Road, Woodlands Parkway, Research Forest Drive, and FM 1488. A sample layout of a diverging diamond intersection is shown on the right. Through traffic on the frontage roads would be grade separated to bypass the intersection, as shown in green. Traffic turning onto or coming from the crossing street would travel through the diverging diamond intersection. Additional long-term recommended alternatives are the turbo roundabouts proposed at the Hollow Tree Lane and Louetta Road intersections. The proposed roundabouts would utilize the existing configurations while allowing full directional access at each intersection. The proposed improvements are anticipated to reduce driver confusion and improve operations. A variety of short-term improvements are recommended at 7 frontage road intersections to address safety and operational issues. The frontage road and intersection recommendations include improved signage and pavement markings, optimizing signal timings, turn lane modifications, additional acceleration lanes, and safety improvements at driveways. A review of existing drainage conditions identified 8 existing water crossings that would benefit from flood mitigation along the northbound and southbound frontage roads. Most of the identified frontage road locations have had a history of flooding issues, and some locations experienced full closures during past flooding events, such as Hurricane Harvey. Flood mitigation improvements could include roadway or bridge reconstruction, roadway elevation changes, culvert modifications, and stormwater management. Another potential midterm improvement are ramp reversals, which are recommended at several locations along the corridor to address safety and operational issues. A ramp reversal would convert an existing on-ramp to an off-ramp or an off-ramp to an on-ramp, as shown in the graphic on the right. The current ramp configuration usually includes a short spacing between adjacent ramps on the main lanes. Between the ramps, entering vehicles are accelerating and merging onto the main lanes, and exiting vehicles are decelerating and changing lanes to use the off-ramp, which causes safety and operational concerns. The proposed ramp reversals allow the lane changes to occur along the frontage road, where speeds are lower and the spacing between the ramps is greater. Multimodal hubs bring multiple modes of transportation to one location. Within a multimodal hub, users would seamlessly transfer between different modes, including private vehicles, carpools, public transit, bicycles, and more. The transportation network, including freight, would be better integrated into the local community through the use of potential multimodal hubs. Residents would be able to more easily and efficiently make local and regional trips. A travel demand evaluation resulted in the identification of 4 locations along I-45 North that are anticipated to benefit from a potential multimodal hub. The potential multimodal hubs would require a public-private partnership between several entities, including TxDOT and transit agencies. The photos shown here on this slide are for illustration purposes. The actual appearance of any future multimodal hubs would be subject to schematic design, environmental and public review, and final design. The final component of the recommended alternatives is the opportunity for enhanced pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. A shared use path is proposed along the frontage roads to provide safe accommodations for both bicycles and pedestrians. Opportunities for east-west enhancements were identified through the Houston-Galveston Area Council, or HGAC, Active Transportation Plan and the South Montgomery County Mobility Plan. As future projects occur along the I-45 North corridor, enhanced bicycle and pedestrian accommodations could be incorporated consistent with future bicycle and pedestrian plans. Enhancements may include a shared use path or sidewalk along crossroads, wider bridges to accommodate multimodal crossing, or safety enhancements for bicyclists and pedestrians at intersections. The I-45 North PEL study began in spring of 2017 and is expected to be complete in early 2024. Stakeholder and public engagement has been held throughout the study to gather input at each milestone. 8 stakeholder meetings have been held to date, along with several individual stakeholder meetings. A final stakeholder meeting is planned at the study conclusion to present the final study recommendations and the final documentation. 3 open house public meetings have been conducted, with this being the 4th and final open house public meeting. The materials presented at each of the stakeholder and public meetings are available on the study website. Each stakeholder and public meeting provided the opportunity for input through conversations with project staff, surveys, mapping exercises, comment forms, and more. Throughout the PEL study, we received over 1,000 survey responses. Thank you for your continued engagement and valued input. The input received was used to develop the recommended alternatives presented today. Future projects would have additional stakeholder and public meetings with continued opportunities for engagement and input. After the conclusion of the PEL study, the proposed recommended alternatives may become future projects. Although the PEL study included a high-level evaluation, each recommended alternative would be evaluated in greater detail during the project development process. The recommended alternatives could be standalone projects, a combination of several into one project, or added to another planned project. These projects could be funded and sponsored by TxDOT or another agency or jurisdiction. Each of these projects would go through the project development process, consisting of preliminary engineering, environmental review, and final design, before construction would occur. Public involvement and stakeholder engagement would continue through each stage of the project development process. Modifications to the recommended alternatives would be incorporated based on the detailed environmental and alternative analysis during the project development process. The environmental review would follow the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, which includes a detailed evaluation of environmental resources, some of which are listed on the left side of the screen. Additional aspects that would be determined during the project development process include preliminary engineering, final alignment, right-of-way needs, funding sources, and drainage needs. TxDOT encourages you to review the I-45 North PEL Study recommended alternatives and public meeting materials and provide feedback. You may submit comments in the following ways. Download the comment card from the study webpage, www.txdot.gov/project/hearings-meetings.html, and email to hou-pio-webmail@txdot.gov. Fill out the comment card at the open house and drop in the comment box. Mail the comment card to TxDOT Houston District, Attention, Advanced Project Development Director, P.O. Box 1386, Houston, Texas 77251, 1386. Comments must be received or postmarked by Friday, October 13th, 2023, to be included in the public meeting documentation. Written comments received during the comment period will be included in the public meeting documentation that will be posted on the study web page when complete. We encourage you to stay engaged in the I-45 North PEL Study and invite you to view the various study materials on the TxDOT website. For example, the virtual public meeting materials, fact sheet, study reports, schedule, and other information are included on the study web page. Please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions, and feel free to contact Robel Sintayehu, Project Manager, at the TxDOT Houston District Office by phone at 713-802-5374 or email at robel.sintayehu@txdot.gov with any questions or comments at any time during the PEL study process. And don't forget to click on these links and follow us on Twitter for ongoing road closures and construction updates on the Houston District Twitter page. You may also keep up with TxDOT news on our Facebook page or follow us on our Instagram page. November 7th, 2000 was the last deathless day on roadways in Texas. That means for nearly 23 years, at least one person has died every single day. We all have a part to play to change that. This message is that reminder to end the streak of deaths on Texas highways. We need drivers and passengers to act more responsibly and help us reach our goal of 0 deaths by 2050. Texans can play a major role in ending fatal crashes with a few simple driving habits. Wear seatbelts, drive the speed limit, put away the phone and other distractions, and never drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So please, do your part and share this message with your friends and family. Thank you for participating in this public meeting. Please remember to submit your comments no later than Friday, October 13th, 2023, to be included in the official public meeting documentation.